Okay, let's dive into this this gnarly problem. Generating PDFs in web development. Seriously, if you've ever had to make like invoices or reports or really any dynamic document on the fly, you know it can feel like wrestling an octopus. It's
Yeah.
probably something a lot of you listening are, well, dealing with right now.
Oh, definitely. And what's kind of amazing is just how many different tools Ruby actually offers to help you tame that octopus.
Mm.
We've dug in some really great recent articles. There's a super helpful overview from Paged.js, some really practical stuff from the Super Rails blog, a neat guide on DEV community, experiences from the Honey Badger blog.
Right.
We even found a YouTube benchmark from Winston Codes on that actually puts some of the big players head-to-head on performance.
Exactly. So yeah, for this deep dive, we're basically going to try and chart a course through this whole landscape of Ruby PDF libraries. And to give everyone a map, we're going to lean on those categories that PP4's laid out. They broke it down pretty neatly into three main types. You've got
Hmm.
browser-based gems, non-browser-based ones, and then third-party APIs. That should give us a solid structure, you know?
Totally. And if you think about the core problem you're trying to solve, right, it mostly comes down to two main ways of doing it in Ruby. One way is taking your HTML and CSS, the stuff you already use for your web pages, and, converting that into a PDF.
Okay.
The other way is more direct, like you're basically drawing the PDF using Ruby code itself. So we'll look at how these different approaches stack up performance, how easy they are to actually use, the goal being to help you figure out which tool fits your specific situation without getting totally lost in all the options.
All right, let's jump into that first big category then. The browser-based HTML to PDF conversion. Now, the idea here, like PD Forge explained, is actually pretty smart. You basically use a web browser that runs in the background, a headless browser, they call it, or some rendering engine, to take your normal HTML and CSS and just poof, turn it into a PDF.
Right. And the big appeal is pretty obvious, isn't it? You're working with technologies you probably already know really well.
Mm.
If you've spent ages styling your content with HTML and CSS, these tools promise to make the PDF look just like that.
And kind of leading the pack here, seems to be Wicked PDF. Multiple sources, Super Rails, Honey Badger, PD Forge, they all mention it. Call it a classic favorite even.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is what's under the hood. It uses this external command line tool called RoCamL Top EDF, like Super Rails, Honey Badger, and PD Forge all point out. You usually need to add the RoCamL Top DFF binary gem to your project.
Ah, okay. So that's a dependency to keep in mind. It's not just the Ruby gem itself.
Exactly. You're relying on this separate program being installed and, working correctly.
Yeah, gotcha. And Super Rails really highlights how easy it seems to get started with Wicked PDF, especially in Rails. They show an example just generating a PDF straight from an HTML view in a controller. Looks pretty plug and play for simple stuff.
Totally. You essentially tell your controller, hey, render this view, but as a PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And like Super Rails mentions, you can definitely style these PDFs using your regular CSS. You can even set up a specific layout just for the PDF version, so you get pretty good visual control.
Plus, Wicked PDF apparently has some useful customization options. Super Rails mentions setting things like orientation, portrait, or landscape page size, and even the disposition.
Its position.
Yeah, like whether the browser should just download the file or try and display it in line. Little things, but handy.
Ah, right. Okay. And connecting that to something really common, sending invoices or whatever, both Super Rails and Honey Badger mention, it integrates nicely with Action Mailer for email attachments.
Mm.
That's a big one for a lot of apps.
Definitely. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. PD Forge does give a heads up that Wicked PDF can sometimes struggle a bit if your pages use a lot of heavy JavaScript.
Right. If your HTML needs a bunch of client-side script to render properly, that's something to watch out for.
And then there's the visual quality that Winston Codes on Video compared it directly. Apparently, the Wicked PDF output wasn't quite as sharp visually as what they got from Prawn, which is one of those direct drawing libraries we'll get to. They also mentioned some, like, font rendering issues with Wicked PDF out of the box.
Interesting comparison. Good to know. Oh, and one practical point from Super Rails, they specifically say Wicked PDF works fine on Heroku.
Oh, good shout. That's a common deployment platform, so that's useful info for a lot of folks.
Okay, so sticking with browser-based, PDForge also talks about Grover. This one also does the HTML to PDF thing, but it uses headless Chrome as the engine. So Chrome, just without the actual window you see.
And PD Forge suggests Grover might be a bit simpler to set up compared to Puppeteer, which is another headless Chrome option.
That's what they imply, yeah.
Yeah.
Might be less fiddly to get going initially. The Winston Codes on Video tested Grover too, visually. They felt it was better than Wicked PDF, closer to Prawn's crispness, but maybe not quite all the way there.
Okay, so an improvement visually, perhaps, but what about speed?
Ah, yeah, the benchmark.
Mm.
The Winston codes on results there were pretty clear. Grover was the slowest of the three they tested, slower than Prawn and Wicked PDF.
Hmm, okay. So a potential trade-off there. Maybe better looks than Wicked PDF, but slower generation.
Seems like it. And just for context, that BDRS article notes Grover is basically a wrapper around Puppeteer. So it's using that same core Chrome tech underneath.
Which leads us nicely to Puppeteer Ruby itself, which PDForge also covers. So this is a Ruby wrapper for the official Puppeteer library. Sounds like it gives you really fine-grained control.
Yeah, PDForge highlights that. Precise rendering, full JavaScript support before you make the PDF. They show a quick example. Add the gem, fire up headless Chrome in your code, point it at your HTML, tell it to save as PDF. Looks powerful if you really need that level of control or heavy JS execution.
Right. Okay, maybe we should pause for a second on Talk.bf itself because, with PDF and PDFKit both rely on it.
Good idea. Yeah, multiple sources, Super Rails, Honey Badger, PDF kits, own docs, DV community, D-S. They all stress that this command line tool is the actual engine doing the HTML CSS to PDF conversion for those gems.
But here's something potentially important. Dieter S's article from April 2025 mentions the YTML app TopDF project on GitHub is marked as archived now.
Yeah, that's a significant flag. Archived usually means development has slowed way down or maybe stopped. Could mean potential issues with updates or security fixes down the road. It's a definite heads up for long-term planning.
Something to watch for sure. The DDV community article shows how to install it easily with Brew on a Mac, which is helpful to get started. But the PDF kit docs mention potential gotchas, like problems with relative URLs in your HTML, or maybe issues in single-threaded environments. Little things that could trip you up.
And D-S points out a really specific kind of annoying technical problem with Reiki TML Top ADF and similar tools. Apparently, even now, Chrome's engine doesn't properly support the CSS element function for print styles.
Oh, really? That sounds like exactly what you'd want to use for consistent headers and footers on every page.
Exactly. But it doesn't quite work as expected, which makes creating those standard headers and footers way harder than it feels like it should be.
Okay, so that brings us to PDFKit, another one that uses RakeTML Top DF, right? But maybe a bit different.
Yeah, PDForge mentions it. Honey Badger, DEV Community 2. It uses WCAG.html.adf, like Wicked PDF, but PDForge describes it as having a more minimal interface. It seems geared towards simpler use cases. DEV Community and Honey Badger show really basic examples, just feeding it an HTML string. Looks quite straightforward.
And it handles CSS for styling.
Yep, both DEV Community and Honey Badger confirm that, so you can make things look decent. And PDFKit's GitHub page mentions some neat middleware for Rails. Lets you just add .pdf to a URL to get the PDF version of that page.
Oh, that's slick. Sounds very user-friendly.
PDForge suggests PDFKit is often faster than the heavier browser solutions like Grover. Makes sense, it's lighter weight. But the trade-off, as PDForge notes, is limited JavaScript support. So if your page relies on JS to render content, PDFKit probably isn't the right fit.
Got it. And the docs mention you can tell it exactly where your WriteTML top PDF binary is located.
Right, which is useful if it's not in a standard place or the gem can't find it automatically. Configuration flexibility.
Okay, let's switch gears quite a bit now. Moving to that second main category PDForge talked about, non-browser-based direct PDF generation.
Right, so the whole idea here is completely different. You skip the browser rendering part entirely. Instead, you're using like low-level drawing commands in Ruby, or maybe rendering just tiny bits of HTML directly, generally faster, fewer outside dependencies.
And the big name here seems to be Prawn. PDForge, Honey Badger. They both describe it as powerful yet minimalist. Pure Ruby comes with its own special language, a DSL just for making PDFs.
Yeah, a domain-specific language. So instead of writing HTML, you write Ruby code using prawn-specific commands to say, draw this text here, draw this line there. PDForge and Honey Badger emphasize this direct command approach. You're not interpreting HTML. You're explicitly building the PDF element by element. Very fine-grained control.
And the feature list sounds pretty impressive. Prawn's GitHub page and Honey Badger mention things like vector drawing, text rendering with some basic inline styling font embedding, layout tools like grids, putting images in.
Security features too, like password protection, page numbering, even handling different languages and character sets. It sounds really capable if you're willing to learn that DSL.
PDForge and Honey Badger have basic examples. You can sort of see it, right? You're telling Prawn exactly what to draw and where.
That Winston Codes on video really liked Prawn's approach, writing directly to the PDF byte stream. very page-focused. The creator felt it gave way more layout control than the HTML converters.
Then visually.
Visually, they definitely preferred Prawn, praised the crispness, the professional look, said it was better than both Wicked PDF and Grover in their tests.
So Forge sums it up as fast and highly configurable. Seems like if you need that pixel-perfect control and speed matters, Prawn's a really strong option.
Absolutely. And this is really important, Prawn's own docs and Honeybadger make it super clear. It is not an HTML to PDF generator.
Right. Don't expect to just throw a complex web page at it.
Exactly. It has some very basic inline text styling, but that's about it. You're building it block by block.
Mhm.
Oh, and the Winston Codes video mentioned that for tables, you actually need a separate gem prawn table. So that's another piece to add if you need tables.
Good to know. Okay, still in this non-browser category, Forge also brings up Hexo PDF. This sounds a bit different again, more modular, for manipulating existing PDFs.
Yeah, that seems to be its focus. Manipulating PDF objects, merging files, optimizing file sizes. Forge shows a quick example of generating text using its Canvas API. Looks like a different way of thinking about PDF structure.
And Forge highlights its memory efficiency.
Right. They suggest it's good for really large-scale workflows where memory usage could become an issue with other tools.
Okay, let's pivot one last time to the third category from Forge, third-party PDF generation APIs. So the idea here is just send the job somewhere else entirely.
Pretty much. Offload the PDF creation to an external service. And Forge, well, they offer one themselves. They talk about having a no-code builder for templates, AI template generation, even custom components. Sounds quite feature-rich on the template side.
And the main benefit is scalability, right? Handling lots of requests.
Exactly. These services are built to handle high volume without stressing your own app's servers. PD4 says you can often trigger lots of PDFs with just one API call.
They show an example. Hit their API with a template ID and the data you want to fill in. Could be attractive if you expect massive traffic or just don't want to manage the PDF generation infrastructure yourself.
Definitely an option to consider in those cases. Now, circling back to a challenge we touched on earlier, those pesky headers and footers,
Yeah.
Dieter S.'s article really digs into this.
Yeah, that difficulty in getting them consistent across pages with the HTML to PDF tools.
Right. And he confirms that discovery about Chrome, even in 2025, still not fully supporting that CSS element function for print, which is, frankly, surprising.
Yeah, you'd think that would be standard by now for print styles.
So he talks about the fallback,
Yeah.
the pragmatic hack, as he calls it,
Mm.
using basic HTML tables as placeholders for header and footer content. Old school, maybe, but apparently reliable.
But he also found a more modern fix, Paged.js.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Paged.js. It's a JavaScript polyfill code that adds missing features to browsers. And it does handle print stuff properly, including page numbers, headers, footers. The catch, as Dieter points out, is you have to put your header and footer HTML inside the main body tag for Page.js to find and process them correctly. A bit quirky, but it works.
Oh,
And all this header-footer deep dive actually led Dieter S. to start building his own RubyGem BD2 PDF. It's still work in progress, apparently. But the goal is a clean command line tool to print websites to PDF using Chrome's BD protocol and Page.js, but crucially without needing Node.js installed.
ooh, that sounds promising, getting those modern print features without the node dependency hassle.
Yeah, definitely one to watch if you need that kind of advanced print styling from HTML.
Okay, finally, let's wrap back to that Winston Codes on benchmark. The performance test. Prawn, Grover, Wicked PDF.
Right. And it's interesting they mentioned having trouble getting reliable results with a standard benchmark gem at first, especially with the tools that render through a controller. So they ended up creating their own custom way to measure it more accurately for their setup.
And the results. What was the final verdict on speed?
Okay, so in their specific test, generating multiple PDFs, Wicked PDF came out fastest.
Fast is
Prawn was second, and Grover, the headless Chrome one, was the slowest of the three.
Wicked PDF fastest, Prawn second, Grover slowest. Got it.
But, and this is key, remember the creator's visual preference, despite Wicked PDF being quickest in that test.
They still like Prawn's output the best.
Exactly. They preferred the crisp professional look from Prawn, which just highlights, best isn't just about speed. It really depends on what you prioritize, raw performance or final visual quality, or maybe ease of use with HTML.
Totally. So wrapping this all up then, hopefully you listening have a much clearer picture now of the different ways you can tackle PDF generation in Ruby. We've covered the browser-based routes, the direct PDF writing with tools like Prawn, and even farming it out to third-party services.
And the main takeaway really is that there's no single winner. The right gem totally depends on your project. Do you need complex HTML/JS rendering? Maybe look at Wicked PDF or Grover, but keep an eye on performance. Need pixel-perfect control and speed? Prawn's probably your best bet. Worried about scaling for huge volume? A third-party API might make sense.
Yeah, it really boils down to weighing those trade-offs, doesn't it? The familiarity of HTML, CSS versus the direct control and maybe better performance of a DSL. Ease of setup versus potential rendering quirks.
Which kind of leads to a final thought to leave folks with. With things like Paged.js emerging, and projects like Body2PDF trying to bridge that gap between web rendering and high-quality PDFs, how is this whole landscape going to keep changing? How might PDF generation in Ruby get simpler, or maybe face new challenges in the next few years? What other solutions might pop up as people keep wrestling with this enduringly gnarly problem?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely something to think about. It's clearly a space that's still evolving.